My name is Jake. I'm 24 years old, and I need to tell you about my job as a personal shopper that turned into delivering supplies for human sacrifice rituals. What started as easy money driving around town became me running for my life from a cult that wanted to use me as their next offering. 6 months ago, I was unemployed and desperate for work. College degree in hand, but no job prospects, living in my mom's basement, drowning in student loan debt. That's when I found MysticMart Personal Shopping on a job board. $25 an hour plus tips to shop for groceries and deliver them to customers who couldn't or didn't want to leave their homes. The job seemed perfect. Download the app, get assigned shopping lists by the items, deliver them to the specified addresses. No boss breathing down my neck, flexible hours, and decent pay. The company claimed to serve specialty clients with unique dietary and lifestyle needs. I should have paid more attention to that phrase about unique needs. I should have questioned why the shopping lists were always so strange. I should have wondered why all the delivery addresses led to empty lots, abandoned buildings, or locations that didn't exist on any map. But I was young, broke, and desperate, and I had no idea that I was supplying materials for rituals that had been taking place in secret for over a century. The cult had been waiting for someone like me. Someone disposable, someone nobody would miss, someone who would deliver the supplies and then disappear forever. My first few assignments seemed weird but not necessarily alarming. Customer M. Thorne wanted 20 pounds of raw beef, kosher salt, white candles, and specific herbs that I had a special order from an occult shop downtown. Another customer, S. Blackwood, requested lamb's blood from a halal butcher, black fabric, and old cemetery dirt. The app always provided very specific instructions. Meat must be fresh, never frozen. Candles must be hand-dipped, no machine-made. Herbs must be harvested during the new moon. I figured these were just really particular customers, maybe religious dietary restrictions or alternative lifestyle choices. The delivery addresses were the first real red flag. The app would give me coordinates that led to empty parking lots, abandoned warehouses, or patches of woods outside town. But there would always be someone waiting there, people in dark clothing who spoke in whispers and paid in cash, always exact change, always with generous tip. They never made eye contact and always seemed to be in a hurry to take the bags and disappear. Sometimes I would see multiple people lurking in the shadows, watching from a distance as I made the handoff. But the money was good, and I convinced myself these were just eccentric customers who valued their privacy. After 2 weeks, I started noticing patterns. The orders always came on specific days, new moons, full moons, and dates that meant nothing to me but seemed significant to the customers. The quantities were always precise. 13 candles, 7 pounds of meat, 3 bottles of specific oils. And the customers all seemed to know each other. I would overhear fragments of conversations during deliveries. The preparations for the Samhain ritual are proceeding well. The high priestess is pleased with the quality of the offerings. Soon we will have everything we need for the final ceremony. By my 3rd week, the orders were getting more disturbing. One customer wanted me to buy live chickens from a farm supply store. Another needed virgin's blood, which I eventually figured out meant blood from someone who had never given blood before, sourced from a private blood bank with questionable ethics. The most unsettling order came from a customer listed as Circle 13. They wanted me to purchase items from completely different types of stores, rope from a hardware store, sedatives from a veterinary clinic, using a prescription they provided, and a specific type of knife from an antique weapons dealer. I started researching the items I was buying and discovered they were all common elements in ritual magic and occult ceremonies. The herbs were used for summoning spirits, the candles for creating sacred circles, the animal blood for offerings to dark entities. But the real wake-up call came when I delivered an order to what I thought was an empty warehouse on the outskirts of town. As I approached the meeting point, I heard chanting coming from inside the building, dozens of voices speaking in unison in a language I didn't recognize. Through a broken window, I caught a glimpse of the interior. There were people in hooded robes arranged in a circle around an altar covered with the exact items I had been delivering for weeks. In the center of the circle was something that made my blood run cold, a human-shaped outline drawn in salt and surrounded by the candles I had purchased. I realized I wasn't just delivering groceries for eccentric customers. I was supplying materials for an active cult that was conducting human sacrifice rituals. I tried to quit the next day, but the app wouldn't let me log out. Every time I attempted to delete it from my phone, it would reinstall itself. When I called the company's customer service number, I got a recorded message. "Thank you for your dedicated service, Jake. You have been selected for our premium delivery program. Participation is mandatory." Mandatory? What kind of delivery service has mandatory participation? That's when I received a new type of order. Not shopping items, but a delivery address with instructions to come alone after midnight. The message included my full name, my address, my social security number, and photos of me making previous deliveries that I had never known were being taken. "Your services have been exceptional, Jake," the message continued. "The Circle would like to meet you personally to discuss a permanent position within our organization. Failure to attend will result in immediate termination of your contract and other consequences." I knew I had to go. They clearly knew everything about me, and other consequences sounded like a threat. But I also knew I was walking into a trap. The meeting was set for an abandoned church outside town, a location I had delivered to several times but had never actually entered. As I drove there at midnight, every instinct told me to turn around and run. But I was young and stupid and thought I could handle whatever these people wanted. When I arrived, the church was lit by hundreds of the candles I had delivered over the weeks. The same hooded figures I had been serving were arranged in rows, and at the front of the church stood a woman in an elaborate headdress who was clearly their leader. "Welcome, Jake," she said, her voice echoing through the stone building. "You have served us well, and now it's time for you to understand your true purpose." The leader, who introduced herself as High Priestess Morgana, explained that their cult had been operating in secret for over 150 years. They worshipped ancient entities that required regular offerings to maintain their power and protect the cult members from harm. "For generations, we have used mortal servants to gather our ritual materials," she said, gesturing to the assembled items around the altar. "Servants who believe they are simply working a job, unaware of the sacred purpose they serve." "But I wasn't just a servant," she explained. "I was the final component they needed for their most important ritual, the harvest moon sacrifice that would grant them immortality and incredible power. They had been observing me for months, studying my habits, my fears, my weaknesses. You have pure blood," Morgana continued, "unmarked by vice or corruption. You live simply, work honestly, and most importantly, you are unconnected. No close family, few friends, someone whose disappearance would barely be noticed." They showed me detailed files they had compiled about my life, my financial struggles, my social isolation, my desperation for work. They had chosen me specifically because I was vulnerable and disposable. The ritual was scheduled for the following week, on the night of the harvest moon. I would be drugged with the sedatives I had helped them procure, bound with the rope I had delivered, and sacrificed with the ceremonial knife I had purchased. "Until then, you will continue your delivery duties," Morgana commanded. "But now you will also help us prepare the sacred space for your own offering. Consider it an honor. Few mortals get to participate so directly in their own transcendence." They gave me new orders. Dig a specific pattern in the church basement, arrange stones in precise configurations, and prepare what they called the vessel, which I realized was the altar where I would be killed. For the next week, I was forced to help them prepare for my own murder. They had people watching me constantly, making sure I couldn't escape or contact authorities. My phone was monitored, my movements tracked, my every action supervised. I spent days digging symbols into the church basement floor, carrying heavy stones to create their ritual circle, and setting up the altar where I would die. The other cult members treated this like normal work, chatting casually about their plans for after they gained immortality. "Once we complete the harvest ritual, we won't need to hide anymore," one of them said while helping me arrange candles. "We'll have enough power to operate openly, to recruit new members, to expand our influence." They told me details about previous sacrifices, how the victims had died, how their blood had empowered the cult, how their deaths had granted the members extended life and supernatural abilities. Some of the cult members claimed to be over 100 years old, kept alive by decades of ritual murders. But they also revealed their weakness. The ritual had to be performed at the exact moment of the harvest moon's peak, and all 13 core members had to be present. If anything disrupted the ceremony, if even one member was missing or if the timing was off, the ritual would fail and they would have to wait another year. On the night before the sacrifice, they locked me in the church basement with the ritual space I had helped create. "Rest well, Jake," Morgana said. "Tomorrow night, you will help us achieve immortality." But being locked in the basement gave me access to something I hadn't expected. The church's old phone system that connected to the bell tower. The cult had been so focused on monitoring my cell phone that they hadn't thought about landlines. I used the church's ancient phone system to call 911 and report everything. The cult, the planned murder, the location, everything. But I knew the police wouldn't arrive in time to save me. The ritual was scheduled for the next evening, and the cult would probably kill me early if they suspected I had contacted anyone. So I decided to sabotage the ritual myself. I spent the night systematically destroying the sacred space I had helped create, scattering the stones, breaking the candles, erasing the symbols carved into the floor. If they wanted to kill me, at least I could make sure their ceremony failed. When the cult members arrived the next evening for the ritual, they found their sacred space completely destroyed. Morgana was furious, but she was also desperate. This was their only chance a year, and they had invested too much to give up. "We'll perform the ritual anyway," she declared. "The power of the sacrifice will overcome any imperfections in the preparation." They dragged me to the main church, forced me to drink the drug wine, and began their ceremony. But the drugs they had given me weren't working properly. Instead of becoming unconscious, I was just disoriented enough to appear helpless while remaining aware enough to act. When they placed me on the altar and raised the ceremonial knife, I rolled off the other side and ran. The police arrived just as I burst out of church, with 13 hooded figures in pursuit. The cult members scattered into the woods, but several were caught, including Morgana. The investigation revealed evidence of multiple murders over the decades, ritual items, and detailed plans for expanding their operations. Most of the cult members were never found. They disappeared into the network of abandoned buildings and hidden locations where I had been making deliveries. But their ritual was broken, their sacred space destroyed, and their leadership captured. I spent months in therapy dealing with the trauma of nearly being murdered by people I had been unknowingly serving. But I also learned that there are probably dozens of similar cults operating in secret, using apps and modern technology to recruit unwitting servants. If you ever get offered a job that seems too good to be true, that involves delivering strange items to unusual locations, that requires absolute secrecy, ask yourself why. Because some customers aren't just eccentric. Some of them are planning to kill you. And if anyone ever tells you that participation is mandatory in a job, run. Nobody has a right to force you to work, especially when the real job description is human sacrifice victim. I still get nightmares about what would have happened if I hadn't escaped, about the other young people who might be getting recruited through similar apps right now. Because the cult may be broken, but the darkness they served is still out there, still hungry, still looking for new servants and new victims. Trust your instincts, research your employers, and remember that some jobs are literally too dangerous to take.